Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
Welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560. The Answer.
Well, Steve, we're in our second segment, and this always is the part where you have your blog. What is your weekly blog about?
Well, the weekly blog this week is about unfiled tax returns. And the 4 things you should know if you have unfiled tax returns. Now, a number of my clients just this last week came in, and most of them had unfiled tax returns. This seems to be a common problem.
That's why they come to you.
Okay, so, well, not always. Sometimes it's just because they owe money to the IRS, and they have filed their tax returns on time, but they just owe money. And so we help them come up with some plan to repay the IRS, or at least protect them from the IRS. But sometimes, and this is one of the things, and we're going to get into that. There's 4 things that you should know that's the name of the blog post, is 4 things you should know if you have unfiled tax returns. And the first thing you should know is...
Number 1.
It's a crime. Okay, It's criminal. You can go to jail for 1 year for every year that you haven't filed tax returns. Now, the good news is, the IRS doesn't put a lot of people in jail for not filing their tax returns. It has to be intentional. But talk to Wesley Snipes, right? Wesley Snipes just got out of prison.
I'm not going to say don't bet on black.
Exactly.
Or bet on black.
Yeah, bet on black, that's right. So he spent 3 years in prison.
He bet on it and lost.
And yeah, he did. And he had he had other issues because he was what they call a tax protester. He protested and said, I don't think the IRS has the authority to tax me, and so I'm not going to pay them. And then he found out.
And then he said, prove it. And they did.
They did. That's right. They did prove it. And so he actually was convicted of 3 years of intentionally not filing his tax returns for 3 years. And he went to jail for 3 years. Again, not everybody doesn't go to jail, but it is a crime, and they could use that against you should they decide to. And the IRS is starting to use more criminal allegations against people in order to get their attention, right? Oh. So the IRS has, and we're going to talk about this more in the next section, but the IRS has had some problems with their budget. And and so one of the ways, now this is good for some of my clients because I think they're accepting a lot of offers and compromise that they didn't used to because it's easier for them. But again, it's easier also for them to just allege that you have a crime, that if they do that to you, then you're more likely to pay more quickly because you want to stay out of jail. Rightfully so.
Yeah, they try to scare you.
It makes sense. The second thing you have to know if you haven't completed your tax returns is that the IRS will file them for you. And I've been told by the IRS that it's a penalty. It's not a service. Okay, they're not helping you by filing your tax returns.
It happened to me once. I'll tell you.
Yeah. So these are called SFRs, or substitute for returns. And what they do is they look at your income and then they impose a tax based on that income. But they don't give you any deductions. They don't give you any exemptions.
No.
And so the number that they come up with
is very, very high.
That's right. And also. They remember that penalties and interest are based on what they say you owe. And so those numbers are also exaggerated and very, very high. And so you can get caught, with all of a sudden with this large amount of money that they say that you owe. And you say, I didn't even make that much. How could I owe them that much?
We don't like to hear that.
No, and that's what happens a lot. And so you got to be careful. There's things that you can do and we'll talk about that at the end of this segment here about what we can do if you have SFRs filed against you. And the third thing you can do is third thing you should know if you haven't filed your tax returns is that you can only collect, if you have a refund due, you can only collect it for the last 3 years. And so there's a 10-year statute about how long they can.
But you have to pay it for how many years?
10 years, and that's what
10
they
years,
have.
but they only have to pay you back
for 3 years. Okay, so for
that
instance,
doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't seem fair, does it? But it's the way it is. A lot of things in this world aren't fair, Jim.
You're right about that.
So for instance, I have 6 years I haven't filed my tax returns. The first 3 years, they filed for me, and they say that I owe. And then the next 3 years, I do owe them money. So I can go back and redo my taxes. Now I have a refund due, but I don't get that refund. They're not going to give it to me, and they're not going to use it to offset the tax that I do owe. So that's more money that I'm giving the IRS that they, that's now it's a tax, even though I don't really have that tax.
That just doesn't seem right to me.
It doesn't seem right, but that's what it is, and that's again, a lot of people when they come to see me, why are they giving me penalties?
It's like a game show or something. Sorry,
I know.
You could have had that money.
That's right.
Isn't they too late?
We caught you. That's right. We caught you, and that's too late. And then the final thing you have to know is that one thing, if you haven't filed your tax returns, then you're not in compliance. We talk a lot about compliance on this show.
It's a big word.
It's very glib. You're being very glib.
Sorry.
Okay. So again, compliance is a big part of IRS. Of the IRS, right? They want you to be in compliance. And if say they do SFRs against you and then they start collecting, and so then they have a levy against your wages or they freeze your bank account. Now you panic. And this has happened a couple of times last week.
That's when the levy breaks. You got no place to stay.
That's right. A couple of people in my this last week came to see me, had a levy placed against them. And so they come to see me about a levy, but they have unfiled tax returns. Well, you can't really stop the levy until you get your tax returns filed. And if it's a number of years before you filed your tax return, trying to come up with the documents to support a new tax return is going to be very difficult. And now we can pull a lot of things from the IRS. They have transcripts. But if you're trying to get some deductions, you're going to have to come up with the receipts and to support them. And if it was 6 or 8 years ago, going to be hard to do. And that's that's going to put you behind the eight ball. And they're going to go ahead with this levy until you can get in compliance. And again, that's the big thing. You got to get in compliance. It makes it hard, and you can't stop that. You can't stop that levy until you get in compliance. And again, that's the biggest thing. You got to stop the levy. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. If they lose one paycheck, that's right. If you're renting, I've had many clients who, if I miss my rent, my landlord's going to throw me out. What am I going to do? So, and they won't. If you have a hardship, they will stop a levy, but they won't stop a levy with the hardship unless you're in compliance. Unless I'm in compliance. Now, I could say that there was a court. A tax court decision some years ago who said, even if I'm not in compliance, if I can prove a hardship, that they're supposed to stop the levy. But in my experience, they don't always do that. And while you can go to the court, by the time you go to court, it's too late. Okay, so
can they do that? We can do whatever we want with the IRS.
That's absolutely true. So there is some good news, though, because there's a 6-year statute of limitations on how far they can go back criminally against you for your tax returns. So if I haven't filed in 12 years or 14 years, and they haven't filed an SFR for me in those years, well, I shouldn't go back and file. So what people will do is say, I'm going to get in compliance with the IRS, and so they go back and they file all 12 years, and it turns out that they owe money for years that if they didn't file, they wouldn't owe the money. So that's why always get help. Don't take this upon yourself because you don't understand what the rules are. That's why we hire attorneys to help us get a strategy to get it done right. And so you could be hurting yourself by filing tax returns that don't otherwise have to be filed.
That's right. You don't fix your own water heater most of the time, do you? No, you call a plumber.
You try not to. That's right. And then more good news is that when they file something against you for you, I said it's a penalty. It's not a service. The SFR, you can go back and you can file the correct tax returns. So you can redo them and lower your obligation.
Wait, let me ask you a question. If they filed an SFR on me, but it was 4 years ago, can I still go back and get that money?
No, you can't get the money. You can get this because if they do the SFR, you're going to owe them money. You're not going to get a refund. And if you go back and you do it, Now you're going to get a refund. You still don't get that money. It's more than 3 years ago. And in a lot of my cases, that's exactly what happens. They do SFRs. It looks like my clients owe money. We redo those tax returns, and it turns out they have a refund coming, but they don't get the money. So it's just more tax that you're going to pay. So if you're having this problem, if you have unfiled tax returns, call me at 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. If you want a copy of this report, the 4 things you need to know if you have unfiled tax returns, give us a call, 312.
Is that a report or is that your blog?
6649. It's a report, but it's a blog, but we're putting it in a report form.
Okay, well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.